Joining us now for newspaper review is Vimbai Mutinhiri Epeyong, our darling Nigerian wife.
Woo, we've added darling. I love it. Good morning, Dr. Abati. Good morning, Good morning, Vimbai. How are you today? Caramel. I love this color on you.
Thank you, Vimbai.
All right, let's get straight into it. There's a lot to handle today. So we're going to do our best to get through all of the newspapers. Of course, we begin here at home with This Day newspaper, our newspaper of record, leading with, of course, that charge from the IMF saying that Nigeria must sustain economic reforms to turn the corner. Of course, you all have already done a fantastic analysis of the details around that and what the IMF feels needs to happen in order for Nigeria to push those GDP growth numbers forward and to sustain what they are calling, I suppose, the dividends of economic reform. So that's from the IMF. However, above that, above the masthead, President Tinubu is to visit China in September to seal deals with Chinese leader Xi Jinping, also to lead an African presentation to the FOCAC summit. So the trip will include visits to Huawei, China Rail and Construction Corporation to fast-track the completion of the Ibadan to Abuja segment of the Lagos-Kano high-speed rail, amongst other things. But important to highlight that he is truly going there as the head of ECOWAS, as of course this is there will be a China-Africa summit being held there. So as much as he's representing Nigeria, he's also going there as a representative of ECOWAS. Another major story from yesterday, below the masthead, is a statement from the Chief of Army Staff. It says, Lagbaja raises alarm over new security challenges in Nigeria. The CDS also commented and says the military is working tirelessly to ensure increase in oil production to boost the economy. The Air Chief orders commanders to heighten clampdown on adversaries. This is as they met at the Chief of Army Staff combined second and third quarter conference 2024 taking place in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. We'll go to the Nation newspaper who covered this summit in more detail, or rather this conference in more detail. The Nation newspaper leads with CDS, COAS, military won't give in to anti-democratic calls. Civil rule is best for Nigeria, says the EU, and as army goes into massive food production. So, of course, the Chief of Army Staff also denounced calls for military intervention that we saw earlier this month as things began to spiral out of control in some parts of the country during the End Bad Governance protests. And the Chief of Defense Staff says that the military is ready to defend democracy. Of course, another big part of the conversation yesterday was the fact that the army is embarking on massive food production in partnership with the government and the private sector, and they're ramping up the activities of the Nigerian Army Farms and Ranches Limited. So they'll be seeking more partnerships with both private sector and public sector in order to scale up food production and for the army to be able to supply the nation with grain. I'd love your takes on that. But let's quickly move to Guardian newspaper. Guardian is focusing on the oil sector and the viability and how well we're running that sector. So the report here is that it's now costs Nigeria $48 per barrel to produce oil, and that drowns 60% of Nigeria's oil earnings. Now, just to put things into perspective, there's a breakdown on the front page of the Guardian newspaper of what it costs other countries to produce a barrel of oil. So just to pick a few countries at random, Libya claimed that it costs them $1 per barrel. So that's, of course, questionable, but that's what their official position is. Iraq, $10 to $20. Angola, $20. Venezuela, $15 to $30. Now, Nigeria initially was said to have targeted $10 per barrel as production cost. However, when you read the report, you see that analysts are saying the more realistic cost lies around $30 odd. However, 48 makes Nigeria's oil production cost the most expensive in the world currently. Also on the front page of The Guardian is a quick report titled Marginalization, Good Governance or Additional 18 States. Of course, the debate continues as to whether we need to be creating more states as various people in various parts of the country clamor for the creation of new states. So just thought that was an interesting one. Let's move to The Punch, however. The Punch has got a punchy headline today. Flights of fancy. Governors are slammed for wasting 160 billion naira on unviable airports. This is a conversation we've had ad nauseum over the past few years. And this report is really just digging into that, which is exposing the fact that there are some states who are now begging the federal government to take over their airports because they don't know what to do with them. They're not making any money. 6 states, namely Ekiti, Ebonyi, Jigawa, Yobe, Nasarawa, Bayelsa, have spent $160 billion. Now, just to put things into perspective, Murtala Mohammed Airport, Lagos, Nnamdi Azikiwe Airport, Abuja, and Port Harcourt International Airport generate 80% of FAN's revenue. So it seems that other airports are largely just a burden. So this report is just looking at the fact that, and these are the ones that have been completed. There's still a long list of other airports that have been commissioned and abandoned or at various stages of completion. So that's a report from the Punch newspaper. Punch, at the very top, also looking at issues inside the Labour Party. I know Rufai hinted at this yesterday during the interview with the Labour Party's candidate for the Edo State gubernatorial election, Abure Oti, on collision course over Labour Party National Working Committee. Of course, there's been calls for Abure to be removed. Governor Alex Oti is also taking a position. The Punch digs into that. Let's move to the Daily Independent. Daily Independent, again, focusing on aviation. 2 years after commissioning, Ekiti 20 billion naira airport is yet to take off. I mean, guys, this is just despicable. 20 billion naira just sank into something that's now a white elephant. Very, very sad. Now, the lead story of the Daily Independent is that Nigeria moves to avoid international economic penalties, restrictive measures, and vows to exit terrorist financing countries list by May 2025. The country has 9 months left to exit this grey list that's been created by the Financial Action Task Force. And of course, it has countries that are highlighted, grey listed in this case, as having issues with money laundering, terror financing, corruption. So yesterday, the Chief of Staff to the President, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, went on a fact-finding mission to the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit to try and see how Nigeria can meet the deadline to get off this grey list within the next 9 months. Some of the countries on the grey list: Kenya, Burkina Faso, Mali, Bulgaria. So will be interesting to see what moves are made to get Nigeria off that list. To the Daily Trust, of course, you've already spoken about the Mpox vaccine in detail. However, this report just talks about that the virus has spread to 19 states. The cases are now at 40, and of course, the vaccines, 10,000 vaccines donated by the United States have arrived. At the very bottom of the front page, no timeline yet for Oronsaya reports implementation. That's from the federal government. The other day, I remember we spoke about not celebrating announcements and celebrating implementation. No light yet. Looks like another administration might leave the Oronsaya reports to gather dust. Let's now move to African news. Big news from Kenya. Daily Nation. Daily Nation is leading with Raila's show of power. Of course, we know he's been in the bid for that AU chairperson position, and things are looking good for him, as yesterday President William Ruto hosted a high-powered delegation of East African presidents to launch the presidential campaign for Raila Odinga. For that AU seat, you had Yoweri Museveni of Uganda, Saliu Hassan of Tanzania, Salva Kiir of South Sudan, and you also had former President of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, in attendance there. So a very good way to start. I'm not sure any of the other candidates will be able to put together this type of high-profile launch to their campaigns, but the AU bid is up for early next year. currently being held by Musa Saki. So let's see how that goes. I want to look at the Business Daily of Kenya very, very quickly because it leads with revealed Treasury spent 47 billion shillings on Ruto fuel subsidy. Now, in a nutshell, the government said that fuel subsidy was gone in Kenya, and now this report has revealed that, in fact, the government has been paying subsidy, and not a little bit, 47 billion shillings worth of it. Now, let's move to the Citizen in South Africa. Remember yesterday we spoke a little bit about the mayor of Johannesburg, who I said had gotten into hot water because he had tried to advocate for foreigners to be recruited into the police force. Well, knives out for Joburg mayor. It looks like he's going to be fighting for his seat in that office. Now, international papers before we go. The Guardian UK. So the Guardian UK is saying it's time for UK to turn corner on Brexit, says Starmer. Of course, we know that Prime Minister Keir Starmer is going to be headed to Germany and also to France today on a working visit. And he's trying to open up relations between the UK and the EU after Brexit. And
aren't you taking the Oasis story? Oasis is back. They're having concerts in 2025. I'm a big Oasis fan.
You're a big Oasis? Okay. Well, there you go. So Oasis is back. Before my time. I'm too youthful for that. I'm joking. Last before we go, Wall Street Journal. Wall Street Journal, of course, at the very top is leading with the Israel rescues hostage in Gaza. But I'm focusing on a story that's a little bit lower on the front page, which is that governments targeted Wood Telegram's Pavel Durov. Now, they've revealed that just 6 years ago, Pavel Durov actually had a meeting with Emmanuel Macron, where Emmanuel Macron was trying to convince Pavel Durov to move Telegram's head office to Paris. So that's interesting. And of course, the debate continues around whether platforms are responsible for the speech of their users. So that's what we have.
I hear we have to go.
Yeah, I believe, we're going to quickly look at something for sports and then speak about everything.
Well, moving on to some sports stories. With less than 2 weeks to the Super Eagles doubleheader AFCON qualifying matches, the Nigerian Football Federation has announced a German tactician, Bruno Labbadia, as the team's coach. The appointment makes him the 37th head coach of the Super Eagles. RI Sports correspondent Ebi Iyomo reports.
After 3 months without a coach, the Super Eagles of Nigeria will now be led by German coach Bruno Labbadia as they play the AFCON qualifying games against Benin Republic on September 7 and Rwanda on September 10. In a race against time and following discussions with former Sweden coach Anderson and two-time AFCON winner Hervé Renard, the NFF had opened talks with other managers, including Labbadia. Former Brighton and Greece manager Gustavo Poyet and Aito Karanka, who had had spells in charge of Nottingham Forest and Middlesbrough. But Labbadia, who holds a UEFA professional license and previously managed Hertha Berlin, Wolfsburg, Hamburg and Leverkusen in his homeland, emerged the preferred choice. Labbadia is the sixth German to take charge of the Super Eagles, following Karl-Heinz Maresca, who had had 2 stints between 1970 and 1974. Gottlieb Gola in 1981, Manfred Horner from 1988 to 1989, Betty Vogt, who was in charge from 2007 to 2008, and Gennard Rohr, who was coach between 2016 to 2021. In his managerial career, he has taken charge of 487 games, amassing 214 wins, 103 draws and 170 losses. This means that he has a 43% win, 21% draw and 34% loss. Despite managing 487 games at club level, Labbadia has never coached a national team. The German will face a difficult task, considering the huge national expectations on him, as the Super Eagles sit 5th on the Group C table after gaining only 3 points from 4 World Cup qualifying games. Only Zimbabwe, who are placed 6th, have a worse record than Nigeria. Labbadia is now faced with 2 important qualification campaigns for the 2025 Nations Cup and 2026 World Cup. But despite a short time to get to know his players, immediate results will still be expected from him. Ebi Iyomo, Arise News.
Okay, Bruno Labbadia, 37th coach of the Super Eagles, 6th German. to manage the Nigerian team. But the irony that we have pointed out, and we did so yesterday with Aviation, is that it's just about 10 days to the match we have on September 7 against Republic of Benin and September 10 against Rwanda in Kigali. The one with the Republic of Benin is in Uyo, you know. But quickly, just to talk about some of the issues you raised. Rufai was talking about the Gallagher brothers, Noel and Liam, superstars of the city of Manchester, where there is already a big excitement in Manchester that they are coming back. They had that split 19 years ago. Was it 19? No, in 2019, 15 years ago. Just like this your
P-Square.
This your P-Square.
And yeah, they're brothers.
Ibe Jono in Nigeria.
No, don't go Ibe Jono. Paul and Peter were brothers.
It gives us some, hope that maybe the P-Square team also will come together sometime in the future to the great excitement of people, just as the people of England are excited, the people of Manchester are excited. But to go beyond that, let's talk about the other story you raised about Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer spoke yesterday. The pith of his speech is that the Labour Party is determined to correct the errors of the Conservative Party. And he's saying that the broad-shouldered people will have to pay more. So, it's interpreted as more taxation in the September budget that will come, and inheritance tax going up, capital gains tax going up. But he's also talking about it is time to turn the corner with Brexit. So this morning, he's meeting with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. A trade deal. That trade deal will take about 6 months. So it's about defense, it's about trade, but it's not a one-way conversation. The Germans are going to ask, that European youths that are under the age of 20 should be allowed to come and work in Britain. But we'll see how that goes. When he leaves Germany, he's going to go to France, where we will today have the opening ceremony of the Paralympics, which is also being hosted in Paris, but you will spend less than 18 hours in Paris. But so we have a new dispensation in the United Kingdom under the watch of Keir Starmer. So those are the major big issues. As for Nigeria, you raised the point about is it Mpox? Okay? Yeah, they've already been praised for their proactiveness. The fact that Nigeria was proactive, but what we have is class 2, but still we should not drop the ball. 40 states affected, 19 states affected, 40 cases reported. It's important for the NCDC to be proactive because when Iyeki Azu came here, we praised him that body was proactive under his watch. That should be sustained.
All right, so a number of things to get through. You highlighted so many important stories. First of all, let me say welcome to Mr. Labadia. I wasn't here yesterday to formally welcome. Let me just give you a warning. If you lose match, they used to sack people in this country anyhow, and just as with any other country, he's on the
with a veto.
With a veto. And that I don't know what was going through his mind taking up this job when they have just a few days to 2 important matches, and of course the pressure for us to qualify. I don't know how that for the World Cup. So I don't envy him, but let's see how he will do. It's a bit concerning that he's never coached the national team. So I'd like to understand the rationale behind because I do think there should be some experience. It's a different ball game. You're dealing with multiple stakeholders. You're dealing with a team that don't play together very often. So in terms of even bringing together that unity. So all the best, Mr. Labadia. We're a lovely nation, but just get ready with the veto, and especially we don't win matches. But let me move on to airports. Vimbai, shocking. 20 billion naira proposed airport in Ekiti State. It was supposed to be the agro-allied airport. And as with many governors or presidents, on the last day or towards the last few days of their tenure, they start to launch or commission different projects that have not even started at all. And that's what Dr. Kaide Fahimi did. Now, there were criticisms already when they had announced that airport. That number one, You already gave that report about how a number of airports, aside from the 3 you cited in Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt, are not viable. And then you want to build an airport that is 55 minutes away from an airport in Akure. Why can't you all use the Akure airport and then channel that money to other infrastructure projects like roads, like other forms of transportation, to link states in the southwest regions together? Rail. So those are the conversations that come up, and then you wonder why. Is it just so that their names will be written in stars as to the person that brought an airport to Ekiti? It was an airport what Ekiti needed. So I believe that an investigation should go in there. 20 billion naira, I'm not sure they'd spend that amount yet because he had not even started that much. He just wanted to commission it so that he'd be the governor who commissioned that, the airport. So that needs to be checked. Then, with regards to the other states, final point is that should there be concessions so that we can make profit? The reason I'm saying that this is that if you go to these airports around, they're not functional. So the reason why they are not making profit is because they are dead on arrival, badly managed, no incentive for anyone to want to invest or even have anything there. So, and then how the purchasing power of people, how many people can afford flight tickets currently? So many issues belabeling that.
See, Mr. Labadia, if you do not win your next match in 12 days, maybe we'll be here singing ha la 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 bam bam, ha la 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 bam bam, to tishere. The man doesn't have pedigree. They sack him in most of his jobs.
He doesn't stay longer than a year.
He doesn't have pedigree. He doesn't stay longer than a year. They've sacked him in most of his jobs. So this one, NFA, if it's not, we'll be singing la 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 bam bam. Okay, you say I said it. Secondly, as regards the airport, is that only the one making you laugh? What of Mr. Omayi's airport in Ebonyi? Mr. Omayi, I don't know how that airport passed feasibility study.
Engineer, please.
Engineer Omayi. What of Engineer Omayi's airport in Ebonyi? I don't know how it passed feasibility. Ebonyi, Abakaleke is 20 minutes from Enugu Airport. 20 minutes. With bad road and everything, 20 minutes from Enugu Airport. International airport there. That is not even fully using its capacity. I think it's only Ethiopian Air that's flying out.
Some of them have just 2 flights a day.
Some of them just have 2 flights a day. You still went ahead to build airports there. So now in the southwest, now almost everywhere, Ibadan airport, almost every state now airports, and they are not viable. And we all know almost like Ibadan airport wasn't viable. I remember back in the days, my mom had a property in Alakia.
The state is viable. We have a cargo airport.
The one in Alakia. I remember that in the 80s, Ayo, in the 80s, my mom was part of the rush of those that bought land in Alakia because they were about to start the Ibadan airport there. Till today, it's not taking off. So let's stop deceiving us. I'm happy Noel and Liam are back. You know one of their favorite tracks, don't look back in anger. They've listened. They are not looking back in anger. Let me. But some people, some haters are saying it's because they are broke.
Really happy. I was going to say, let me not be a pessimist and say, let's see how long this will last. We know how those infamous and famous split and come back together. But thank you so much.
Okay, before you go, yes. I think there's a response to one of your stories. I think front page of The Guardian. And this is from Femi Shoneye, the spokesperson of NNPC. Let me read what he says. He says, it is convenient for analysts to dissect NNPC's annual financial statements and debate the company's performance, particularly regarding the cost of production, which is often misunderstood. In some areas of Nigeria, production costs range between $10 to $15 per barrel. However, the real question is how many of our peers, such as Aramco or Petrobras, face the same operational challenges as NNPC. No major oil company in the world, whether private or state-owned, deals with the extent of oil theft that NNPC confronts. None of them has had to contend with the deliberate vandalism of assets by all thieves, nor do they pay non-state actors to protect their assets from vandals. Imagine the billions that should have been recorded as profit instead of being spent on securing oil assets. Okay, there's a next paragraph. Let me jump that. If these challenges were removed, you will see the impressive numbers NNPC could produce. It could confidently achieve a production level of 2.5 to 3 million barrels per day without any issues. So that's a response
from... So is it us that are going to solve oil theft problem
for
Mr. Shoneye?
Well, this is Femi Shoneye responding to the program.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for I think it's great to get that clarity as well, and an opportunity for them to have a say. Thank you, Bimba.